Teacher talking sports, what it does, what it do, how we live in. Day one of NBA free agency is in the book. Started at 6 p.m. Eastern time yesterday. I thought I'd maybe doing a video where I grade each free agent signing. I'm a teacher. I'm pining the grade stuff. I'm on summer break. Haven't been able to do so, but in all seriousness, I taught first grade last year. We didn't give out letter grades, but instead, I'll briefly look at some of these signings and I'll mention what I see as the best and worst value signing of last night's extravaganza. We saw some big deals handed out. So we're going to take a look at Spotrac, which lists all the free agent signings that were announced yesterday. So they start off with the highest amount. So as you can see, 7 guys received contracts of at least $100 million. The highest, Jeremy Grant, 5 years, $160 million, $32 million a year. Is that enough to get Damian Lillard to want to stay? He was on the team last season, Jeremy Grant. They weren't successful at all. Grant, he's put up numbers the past few seasons, at least scoring, but it's with teams that haven't been good. Portland, Detroit. When he was with Denver, OKC, he was, a more of a role player, but, he focused mainly on defense, and I feel like that's where he may be at his best. I don't see him as a $32 million player, but I definitely don't see Fred VanVleet as a guy who gets a max deal to leave the Raptors to go to the Houston Rockets. 3 years, $128.5 million, 42.8 plus million a season. VanVleet, he's not the most efficient shooter. 2 of the last 3 seasons, he shot under 40%. I believe this past season he shot a career low at 3-point percentage. I did see on ESPN.com, I didn't click on the video, it mentioned how Richard Jefferson says they're one piece away, the Rockets, from making the playoffs. Maybe if that one piece is Nikola Jokic. The Rockets still have a lot of growing to do. But Ime Udoka maybe can get the culture changed and make the Rockets youth grow up quicker. Kyrie Irving, 3 years, $126 million. I don't really know what to say. Dallas is kind of stuck in a corner where after trading for him, it would have looked awful if he moved on after a couple months, but we saw the team completely fade out of the postseason picture after adding him. Wasn't completely his fault. Wasn't a lot of his fault, but they lost a lot of depth in that deal, including Dorian Finney-Smith. Cam Johnson, 4 years, $108 million, $27 million a year. As a restricted free agent, would anyone have offered him anything close to that? Restricted free agency is always tricky because you don't want that contract on your ledger for a couple days where you can't sign anyone and wait for the other team to decide if they're going to match or not. But Cam Johnson definitely had a nice role with the Nets after being traded to him. Kyle Kuzma, he won his ring. He must be, just trying to get the money at this point because Washington will not be a winning franchise after losing Beal, Porzingis. 4 years, $102 million. Chris Middleton, 3 years, $102 million. I figured the Bucks would re-sign him. Kind of a fair deal. 3 years is good when the guy's going to be, I think, 32 before the season starts. Draymond Green, we heard some types of rumors with him. 4 years, $100 million, fair. Jakob Poeltl, 4 years, $80 million. Kind of a more traditional center. Not expanding his game to the 3-point line, but definitely a solid scorer and rebounder. Some of the other signings, I won't go over all of them. Hachimura, 3 years, $51 million. Definitely earned a lot of money from that postseason run. Shout out to Bruce Brown. I remember last year, I forget if he was signed the first day of free agency or the second day of free agency, but I said he was the best deal that day. Denver, $6-7 million. for 2 years. Second year was a player option. He got paid 2 years, 45 million. Maybe a slight overpay by the Pacers, but he's such a great role player. Um, Probably would start for the Pacers. I don't have a problem with it. He deserves that money. Gabe Vincent, 3 years, 33 million. Does that mean the Lakers move on from D'Angelo Russell, who remains unsigned? So not on here is Max Strus. Every outlet's basically saying the sign and trade will happen with Miami trading him to Cleveland. They might want to get a third team involved. It's just kind of strange. And I think it's 4 years, 64 million is the reported deal they would give him. When they re-signed Karis LeVert and then signed Georges Niang to a deal as well. How much of a need do they have for Max Strus? He's probably a better player than Niang, but Niang's actually probably the more accurate three-point shooter. Dennis Schroeder, replacing Fred VanVleet in Toronto. Joe Ingles, I mean, he's been such a good player. Where the stats don't say the whole picture. Orlando giving him 2 years, 22 million. Didn't make much sense to me. Trey Jones, 2 years, 20 million back to San Antonio. Definitely a good deal. Shake Milton, 2 years, 10 million. I like that for Minnesota. Also like Seth Curry, 2 years, 9 million. One of the more accurate three-point shooters. Although the Nets really, he was kind of out of the rotation for part of the end of the season. Kevin Love, good re-signing. This is actually, I think, the best value deal right here. Josh Richardson, 2 years, less than 6 million, so a minimum deal to leave the Pelicans and join the Miami Heat. Of course, his first 4 seasons were with the Miami Heat. Each of his last 7 seasons, he's averaged double digits in scoring. He's proven to be a very good defender. For his career, about 37% from deep. So to get him on a minimum value deal, there's a possibility he might start for the Miami Heat. We shall see. But that is my best value deal of day one of the free agency off season. Suns made a nice few moves. We know they need to fill their bench with mostly minimum players. Damian Lee, Drew Eubanks, Bates Diop. There's one other guy, Metu from the Kings. Oh, and Watanabe. And re-signed Josh Okogie. So, their bench isn't still going to be great, but at least they got some nice players to fill out their roster. Let's see if Watanabe could be another 40-plus three-point shooter. Bates Diop performed pretty well with the Spurs. So what do you guys think after day one of free agency? What do you see as the best value? As I mentioned, I'm going Josh Richardson. What do you see as the worst value contract? I have to go Fred VanVleet. To me, he's just not a max player. Jefferson said they're one player away. Well, VanVleet just was on a team with Siakam, OG, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent, Pirtle, and they weren't even able to make the playoffs. So, again, unless that one piece is Nikola Jokic, I don't see it happening, but who knows? So that's my worst value, Fred VanVleet. Best value, Josh Richardson. Let me know in the comments, what do you see as the best and worst free agent value deals after day one of free agency? Let me know in the comments what other deals you like, what deals you dislike. Day 2 coming. Let's see if my Knicks make a move. They were silent in day 1. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.